right. Welcome everybody to our what should have been July but now August CAPPO meeting. I'm going to start with the approval of minutes. I believe I sent it out, if not yesterday, the day before. I'm hoping everybody got a chance to review them. They were attached to the meeting invite. With that, I'll entertain a motion to accept the meeting minutes from May 25th, 2021.
Amber Patterson from the town of Barnstable, and I move to approve those minutes.
Do I have a second? Anyone?
This is Emily Sumner. I'll second.
Thanks, Emily. And good morning.
Good morning.
All right. All those in favor can either do so by raising your hand or any opposed. You can put it in the chat as well. All right. Okay. Motion passes. All right. So meeting minutes are all set. All right. So next item on the agenda. We have Janet from MHEC. I'm sorry, I would have completely butchered your last name. So I'd rather you come on and introduce yourself to the group and give us your update on what's going on at MHEC.
My camera on just please.
No worries.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Jennifer. My name is Janet Garabedian, and I am the new business development manager at MHEC. And I'm not sure if everybody knows who MHEC is, so do you want me to give my little elevator speech?
Well, it's up to you. I think a couple of meetings ago, we actually had a presentation from MHEC. So
do you want me to share slides or just kind of go through this?
Completely up to you. If you want to share, yeah.
Absolutely. I put a presentation together, so I'll just share it real quick.
Why not?
Hopefully it will work. We love technology. Can you see it?
Not yet.
Okay, let me see what I did there. I love this. I don't know why this does this thing. It's right on my. You know what? In the interest of time, I'm just going to go through my presentation.
No worries.
Shut my computer, my camera, as I find that distracting. But you know, I just lost the presentation. I feel like a jerk. Okay. No. Okay, so thank you very much for letting me present to you all. MHEC, as you now know, I understand, is the non-for-profit buying cooperative started in 1977, and we passed all the Massachusetts state procurement laws with regard to 30B. So I wanted to give a quick update on what we're doing with research, technology, upcoming RFPs, our website, something exciting, and some SDO suppliers. So with that, I'm going to buzz right through this, and I have at the end of the presentation, I'll send this presentation to Jennifer and to share, but it also has all my contact information in it. So we went out to bid for the laboratory and sciences category, and this might be important for the K through 12 schools, not so much for all the municipalities, because I know that sometimes the city buy or the town buys for the schools, and sometimes they don't. But anyway, we did a large science and lab bid and had multiple responses. Very few people that we wanted to respond didn't respond because they're responding to another bid, and those would be like Medline and Steris, who will be on a medical category solicitation. So we have new offerings in this bid category, including e-learning, hybrid science learning tools, remote and hands-on, science to go, which is fully remote, virtual dissection. So I think if you need something like that, we've got a contract for it. We've got used and refurbished lab equipment on this contract, and veterinarian and medical and pipette calibration services, which would go if you bought those products through the vendor. We now have we've added continued with 3 diversity suppliers, which I hear is getting very, is gonna start requiring more through the state, more supplier diversity. So hopefully we can keep track of that for you. On this MC 13 D25, we've got 3 diversity suppliers: Continental Resources, WestNet, and Wilcom South Scientific. There's also 10 small business suppliers. I won't go through all of them, but there's lab furniture on there, there's microscopes, etc. So for the schools that might need that. We have a great new contract coming out. We collaborated with the University of Massachusetts Unified Procurement Services team on this. So this will be coming out in October. Will be our new FO5, which is technology and hardware and accessories. Very competitive. Something that you should look at when it's announced in terms of if your city town is buying any of these technology, this is going to be a great contract for you. We've also added accessibility projects, remote learning packages, esports, and robotics. And that might be important to some of the schools who are teaching in those categories. MHEC coming bids that are coming up, and we really would appreciate any feedback that you might have. What suppliers, I don't know, like down the Cape, what suppliers do you need or use for athletics equipment, medical and dental equipment, promotional and print, with master leasing and financing, office supplies and promotion, and Irish car services. These are all categories that we're bidding out. I know you have your options. If this is another just another tool in your bag of tricks to kind of get your job done a little bit more simply. So we're trying to make these as powerful as possible. So anybody that has any feedback on who you'd like to see on an MHEC bid, so you don't have to bid out this category every single time. This is your opportunity to give me feedback, and I'll give that to the contracts team. More contracts update. We're doing cybersecurity on our FO4 contract with the group pricing efforts again with a lot of the state schools, and we're in negotiations with SHI to secure pricing for another 3 years. So that's coming up or in the works right now. Potential new contracts, we're going up debt collection and armored car services. So two big financial categories here. I don't know if cities need armored cars or debt collection, but we will have contracts for those. This is real exciting to me. We are improving our website, and having just joined in the MHEC, I'm thrilled about this because when I try to find some information, I struggle a little bit too. So I think this is something that that our members have asked for time and time again. They just find our current website difficult to use. So you probably see, if you get our mailings, you're getting these little teasers that's coming up. This will make it easier to navigate the website. There'll be landing pages for categories. There'll be simplified menus, improved access to all the contract documents. There'll be simplified contents because it gets a little messy in some of what we have in our website. And there'll be sector pages. So there'll be a whole sector page just indicating for cities and towns. And I'll send you this presentation because it's going to show you what it looks like. There'll be 16 high-level product and service categories. You can just click on a button and it will take you to the vendors that provide that. It will help you to centralize information by the contract. It will include sales sheets, price sheets, SDO status, a marketplace status and link if you want to buy online. There'll be branding categories called out, contract news, and suppliers and promotions. Another thing we're doing is we're looking to add more supplier diversity contracts and suppliers. So if you have any people that you like to work with down there and we can work with them to get them into one of our contracts, that would be great. I know if you're getting federal funding, this might be important too. And as an organization, MHEC is joining the Greater New England Minority Supplier Development Council. And this will help us to network with other supply partners and hopefully get some on contracts to share with you. This is a little teaser, which I am really excited about too, that we are investing in a marketplace. It's going to be a marketplace that you'll be able to go and use a P card to purchase off of our contract. You'll get net pricing. It's a many to many model so that all of our members our membership continues to grow, in our supplier base. Well, I know the supplier base is beginning to grow. We're keeping a lot of suppliers, but we're eliminating suppliers that don't add value. So this is something that will be free to our members and free to our vendors. So a lot of times these marketplaces charge the vendors or a member to use it. This is going to be a value add from the MHEC. So look forward to that. I think we're launching you know what, I hate to give dates because I'll give a date and then I'll be wrong and I don't want to do that. But soon, I'll say fall. And then just some supplier promotions that we offer all the time with Save More products. So we have like air purifiers and sanitizers and things that people still need with going back to school or just to provide to their customers, their end users. So that's it for me. I know I zipped through this and I just hate taking people's time, but I hope that you just use me as a resource. I've been hired to do business development, which means I have to grow business in every sector that we're in, including the municipalities. So I'm happy to come and visit anybody on the Cape. I just purchased a house. So
Am I okay here?
thrilled. So anyway, thank you very much for your time. Jennifer, I'll send you the presentation I did, and
Absolutely.
I thank you very much.
No worries. Two questions though. Actually, one was a quick request. So you had mentioned that you were going to start keeping track of, or already are keeping track of, supplier diversity and MBEs and WBEs. Is there any way, because I think currently you do it by calendar year, and I'm sure some of the towns probably would want this as well, but because we track things by fiscal year, is there any way that we can change that reporting to fiscal year, just so that way we have like a more accurate figure? Because I know I'm working on my annual report right now, and I have like this little asterisk, like, of the rest of the information isn't complete and whatnot, because I don't have the first 6 months of this calendar year. Something we could always talk about offline, but it was, something that, I wanted to make sure that I mentioned to you. And then the other thing on the marketplace, once it launches, you mentioned that we could use P cards, which is really helpful, especially for my organization. Will that require, and I'm sure we probably won't know until it's launched, but will that require multiple users and logins, or will we have like just one where everybody goes in to do their buying, or how will that work? Do you know?
I haven't seen the full-blown presentation, but from
Okay.
what I understand is there'll be, you can manage it the way you want to manage it. So if you want
Gotcha.
to administer that users can have access, anybody can use it. So,
Okay.
but they have to get a login and ID, but there will be a single sign-on. So you
Yep.
can go right through if you're signed into MHEC, it will push you out. And then, so the example that I keep hearing from the people that have the powers that be that got to attend all these meetings,
Yeah.
they used a stapler, for example. So you'll go in and you'll say, I need to buy a stapler. And
Yep.
this is going to pull up every MHEC supplier who has staplers and what the cost is to you. And then you can say, oh, it's cheaper to buy it here. I'm going to buy it here, and punch out, and then you could use your P card. So you can give authority to whomever you want.
All
But
right.
and we'll have a demo on it when it comes out.
I was just gonna say we might have to have you back to have a demo
But there'll
on.
be demos, and and I can come down and do in-person demos when people go back if they want, or I
Yeah.
can do a webinar. But we will have web access. So I'd like, if you're not already have a login to MHEC, it's a good idea just to get one. It's very simple, takes you 2 minutes. Go to mhec.net, log in, get a password. And then you can use it, and then you'll be ready. I believe we're going to just migrate anybody who is on the system now to the new system. And then you'll also get the invitations to join the web access that we have.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
All right.
Let's answer your first question too regarding fiscal year. I can pull up certain reports. So if anybody needs reports, call me, and I can work with our IT department to pull the reports I need. So
Awesome.
yeah, just give me a holler. And that's
Sounds
it. And I really appreciate you all giving me the time today.
Of course. Of
Thank
course.
you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. So next on the agenda is our presentation from the Supplier Diversity Office. John, are you ready? Do we have is Dimitri on, or are you doing this solo?
Ready. Dimitri will pop on, but I'll start
Perfect.
off talking about the pro, okay? And do me a favor, sometimes I lose audio and
Okay.
it's not going to show on the bar. It's not going to show that I'm muted or gone. I'll think you're hearing me. Just, I'm sorry, wave your hands and I'll stop talking.
No worries. We will.
Okay, let me just call up. Wait a minute. I'm sorry.
No worries. At least we can see it, so that's good. Alrighty. Step one.
So I'll start off now, Jen.
Yes, please go ahead. If
Okay.
you don't mind introducing yourself, and I know who you are, but I want everybody else to know who you are as well.
No problem. Hi, everyone. My name is John Fitzpatrick. I'm the Director of Supplier Diversity for the State Supplier Diversity Office. And Jen and I have background as friends in New Bedford long time ago, so that's how we know each other. I want you to know, I don't know if you know right now what's occurred with the Supplier Diversity Office. We used to be an agency within the Operational Service Division, or OSD. They create all the statewide contracts that state agencies and municipalities purchase from, or municipalities purchase from. We were an agency in there, but starting July 1st, we became an independent oversight agency directly from the governor's office. So we're on our own now. An increase in budget, dramatic increase in personnel from maybe 6 or 7. We're going to be going up to 25 new departments. It's a real upgrade, more authority to speak with state agencies and vendors to compliance on the supplier diversity plans and benchmarks that agencies have for diversity goals. So right now, I'm just going to talk about the programs. My colleague Dimitri will be coming on, and then I'll I'll hand it off to him, let him finish up, and then at the end, we'll have time for any questions you might have concerning goods and services, supplier diversity, or the goals on vertical construction projects or the affirmative marketing program AMP. So let me go back to, excuse me. I'm going to call up the presentation again. Okay, can everybody see this? Jen, can
I can see
I
it.
had it up. I didn't.
I can see it. The SDO programs. Oh, now it's gone.
Now it's gone.
Now everybody can see it, right?
Yes. So you
Yeah.
have SDO programs, small business purchasing program, supply diversity,
Okay.
municipal construction. Okay. That's what we're looking at.
So, God, why does it keep doing that? I'm sorry. Pain in the butt. Okay, there we go. Okay, so I'm going to start with the Small Business Purchasing Program, or SBPP. I'll follow up with the Supplier Diversity Program, SDP, which is the diversity program associated with goods and services, and then I'll go to the Municipal Affirmative Marketing Program, which covers construction. Do you have to, I thought I had control before. Can you move this? I was moving the slides before. Now it's all of a sudden saying I don't have control. I'm sorry, this is just.
If you look on the top, you can request control.
Yeah, that's what I just saw. Thank you.
I couldn't get there, but I'm glad you can.
Okay. Well, I lost control because Dimitri's here now. I was just starting, Dimitri. It's all yours.
you got the programs, right? I'm very, very sorry about not being here on time. There's a family health issue that's going on right now,
No worries.
and so I'm gonna try to share my screen.
Yep.
Okay, great. So
Oops.
so John mentioned the 3 programs that we have. These are things that he and I work on quite a bit: the Small Business Purchasing Program, the Supply Diversity Program, and the Municipal Construction Affirmative Marketing Program. I'll just go over some main points about each one. The goal of the Small Business Purchasing Program is to increase the state spending with small businesses. We define small businesses as companies or nonprofit organizations with a principal place of business in Massachusetts, operating for at least 1 year, currently employing 50 or fewer full-time equivalents of staff, and having gross annual revenues of $15 million or less. Only executive state agencies really participate in this program right now. And the program applies to, actually, since it's after July 1st, it applies to any procurement for goods and services where an agency is expected to spend $250,000 or more. So whenever executive agencies buy from a statewide contract, for example, and plan to spend less than $250,000, or whenever they are doing their own bid for something and expect to spend $250,000 or less, they actually have to make a preference for a Massachusetts-based small business in the evaluation, and only award the contract of the size to a business that's not a small business if they can't find a Massachusetts small business to meet that requirement. In addition to that, overall, all of our agencies have a small business purchasing goal of 3.3% of their discretionary spending. So the small business goal is not the only goal that we set for our agencies annually. You will see a lot more of them on the next slide. The Supply Diversity Program actually works with many different types of diverse businesses in Massachusetts and outside of Massachusetts. We set 3 goals for our agencies: an 8% spending goal for minority business spending, 14% for women business spending, and 3% for veteran business spending. But overall, the program also includes service-disabled veterans, disability-owned businesses, and LGBT-owned businesses. So the veteran business benchmark is really both veteran and service-disabled veteran. We do not have goals for disability and LGBT businesses because we're still building the capacity to set a meaningful goal. We're not spending anywhere near like 1% of our spending with these businesses right now. And so we encourage not just agency direct spending with diverse businesses, meaning that it's not just agencies buying from minority, women, and veteran businesses that we encourage, but also partnerships between prime contractors and diverse businesses. And that we call that indirect spending. And that basically encourages kind of the creation of a secondary or a second marketplace, especially for services that we do not, as a government entity, buy. We do not buy a lot of legal services. We have our own lawyers. We do not buy a lot of real estate services or insurance. We're self-insured. We do not buy a lot of chair massages or edible arrangements or flower arrangements. But private businesses that do business with the state sometimes do. And the fact that we require each one of our contractors on larger contracts to have some partnerships like this with diverse vendors creates opportunities for traditional and these less traditional business types. So the third program that we want to highlight is the Municipal Construction Affirmative Marketing Program. And that program right now is focused on essentially school construction funded by the Massachusetts School Building Authority. But in general, the SDO actually is in charge of monitoring the utilization of setting goals and utilization of diverse vendors on all state-supported construction programs. So right now, anything that's actually done for and by state agencies is managed by the Division of Capital Asset Management and Maintenance, or the Department of Capital Asset Management and Maintenance. So that's the state affirmative marketing program. And what we deal with is the municipal aspect of it whenever the state provides funding for a municipal project. I think it matters to kind of explain why we're doing this. There are many, many reasons why the state pursues supply diversity and why it makes not just ethical sense or political sense to do this. It reflects supply diversity, reflects our values. It represents our citizens. It actually engages our constituents. It addresses documented disparities, and documentation of these disparities continues to be published through disparity studies issued by multiple organizations. The state issued one, I believe, in 2017. The city of Boston issued one very recently, and you can see that these programs are necessary. It also supports local economies. Our focus on Massachusetts-based businesses is actually justified. Most of diverse businesses that we do business with, over 90%, are small Massachusetts-based businesses. It also promotes innovation. It enhances competition. It really enriches our vendor pool and ensures that we have sufficient capacity within the state to meet the needs of not just the state agencies, but also municipalities and any other public or quasi-public entity. And finally, it improves customer service because the vendors that we're talking about are often family businesses. Often, really, this is not just a job. This is something that is truly their livelihood. And it is always a pleasure to talk to a business owner that is truly committed to the success of their enterprise. So let's move on to what happened over the past year with the Supply Diversity Office. So we continue to run these programs, but now as the state's newest oversight executive agency. In the middle of January this year, actually maybe late January this year even, the Supply Diversity Office became the state's newest executive agency. We've had meetings with secretariats and agencies to sort of announce the changes, but the core of these changes is really becoming more intentional and really being a hub for supply diversity beyond just managing the state agency programs. So our engagement with agencies became more focused. We now mandate agency spending and procurement plans. These are just coming in right now, and we're planning supply diversity activities with each agency. We promote business opportunities directly to diverse businesses. And we actually have made the supply diversity component of each proposal way more in the evaluation. It used to be that the supply diversity component of a goods and services proposal on average, well, at the minimum was 10%. Now it's at the minimum 25% of the available evaluation points. And that gives us a lot more opportunity to truly identify not just proposals that have competitive supply diversity commitments, but also identify and choose really the vendors that are able or more likely to deliver on those commitments. Because let's face it, sometimes you get a commitment and the vendor may not have planned well enough to actually come through on it. So a couple of other changes. You noticed on the program slides that we changed the threshold between SBPP and SDP to ensure that small businesses get a larger range of diverse range of transactions to participate in. We also are standing up a supply diversity compliance unit that's going to focus on 3 areas of compliance. Vendor compliance, making sure that the vendors that we certify are actually owned, controlled, and operated by the person they're saying owns, controls, and operates the business. There's going to be agency compliance, making sure that agencies are doing what they're supposed to be doing to engage diverse businesses. And finally, there's going to be contractor compliance, making sure that our contractors actually come through on their supply diversity commitments. Finally, I'm going to highlight something that we're very proud to unveil. I think for the first time actually published it maybe a month ago, and that is our municipal supply diversity playbook. But before we do, are there any questions about the programs?
I don't see
Amber Patterson from the town of Barnstable. I just have to make a comment. I'm really excited about that contractor compliance unit. One of the issues we have is the town of Barnstable, for both Chapter 149 and 3039M construction projects, we have our own policy, but there are contractors who at the end of the project say that their subs aren't quite meeting what was established for those percentages. So to have assistance and kind of that and how to go about making them compliant is going to be very much appreciated. It's nothing that happens often, but on occasion we do have those projects where the subcontractors are non-compliant to the contractor. And so it'll be really helpful for us to have some guidance on that, on how to handle that situation.
That's a great question. John, is this something that we have or something that somebody else is supposed to provide? Since this is not, I guess, we're just starting to work on it. Just a disclaimer, but go ahead.
Understood. It's just going forward, I think it's something that we will absolutely utilize.
Yeah, I mean, what Dimitri and what you were saying is true, and Dimitri in his presentation. I mean, the compliance unit, I mean, the project has to have some state dollars in it, and it has to be, if it's vertical construction for the affirmative marketing program, if it's $100,000 or over, and like this was always, it could be $1 of state money, and the rest of it could be all municipal. But that $1 of state that takes it over the $100,000 or $100,000 would make it fall under the affirmative marketing, and that would be something where we could get involved should there be trouble with contractor not meeting goals, or at the end of it. This isn't uncommon on DCAM projects. Sometimes, well, not DCAM, but on state-funded projects sometimes where at the end they say, well, we couldn't meet the goal. We can definitely get involved. In your case, Barnstable, in a situation like that. Let's say there was a council on aging for 600,000, something like that. We could get involved in that, especially because that's probably next to Mass School Building Authority projects. It's the one we identified as a project that state funding might be involved with, along with municipal. Otherwise, police stations, fire stations, things like that normally are municipal or overrides. But it's really, the minute there's state money involved, like I said, 100,000 or above. But yeah, and I think we'll be much more involved.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions? So I'm by no means a specialist in this, but John, is there another kind of recourse where somebody can report a contractor or subcontractor to DCAM as that would potentially be kind of a strike against them on their DCAM certification?
There's always the opportunity for a municipality or someone to report if they feel, let's say, the diversity goals are being ignored, especially like at the city and town level. You could contact DCAM. Charles Kelsey is the new executive director of Access and Opportunity. We work closely with them. So yes, and if you had trouble, lots of times Dimitri and I can ask, sort of be traffic cops. If you, let's say Jen called me about a DCAM project, who do I speak to? I put her in touch with Charles. I might call ahead, let Charles know Jen's calling, whatever helps you get through to talk to somebody live. Or at least get an email response that indicates you spoke to a living person. Does that answer it, Dimitri?
Yep. Thank you. Any more questions? So let me just share a little bit more about this new sort of initiative or resource that we have established, and that's the Municipal Supply Diversity Playbook. In our new capacity as sort of a hub for supply diversity in the state, the SDO has been receiving a lot of questions from municipalities and other public and quasi-public entities asking for some sort of guidance on how to actually start a supply diversity program, or they may have some supply diversity efforts, but not maybe no policy, or they are looking to formalize the initiatives they already have. So what we have done is a set of resources to assist municipalities in developing a local supply diversity program, to recognize that different places, different organizations start at different points and need flexibility to build their own programs. Another goal for this playbook is to really take some materials, some expertise that we have in the executive branch and share and document those experiences and resources, and have a place for all of those things to kind of be together and be shared. To do this, we actually use the plan, do, check, adjust framework. There are different names for it, but essentially it's a sort of an iterative, cyclical, four-step model for continuously improving a program. So the idea here is that at the outset, you establish some objectives, or like you decide on what you're going to do. Then you implement those objectives, and then you look at the results and kind of document formally or informally what you learned, so that the next cycle you will be able to do it better, right? So for established programs like ours, our cycle is 1 year, one fiscal year. At the outset, we set goals. we decide what we're doing. For example, what we're changing this year is the planning and the evaluation of bids and a lot of other different things. We issued like a whole new set of policies. So we planned and we decided what we're going to do. So throughout the year, we're going to track, and at the end of the year, we're going to discuss and decide which of the policies and changes worked, which ones did not work, and potentially come out with adjusted policies and forms and procedures for next year. So that's, very, very simply, most people just do it themselves intuitively. But in this case, this is just a formal kind of a cycle that we encourage folks to do. What we hope folks do at the very beginning of their cycle is really go through a checklist. Figure out if there's support from the top for supply diversity initiatives. Have a team, recognize that supply diversity is a team effort, even if there is a significant champion within the organization, and that happens. Establish a baseline. Consider the different pathways that you can take your program through, and I'll talk a little bit about them. Have some sort of a plan. It doesn't have to be a very detailed plan, but decide what you're going to do for this year or for these 3 months. And we definitely encourage pilots where you try to figure out if a certain way of doing things works. Determine how you're going to measure your success. And this also connects to establishing the baseline. Obviously, you want the baseline to have the metrics that you're going to use to measure your success. Have some documentation, like instructions for buyers, for example, or contract user guides or the statewide contract index. I'll show those in a bit. And really have some solid communication about the changes that are about to come so that the changes would not be a surprise to anybody. So the things that we provide for this, just the planning stage, we have a model supply diversity team charter, some spending analysis service that you can actually use where we can take your payment information, tell you which ones of your vendors for the year are actually SDO certified. We provide program training for our programs, and we'll be happy to provide slides and things like that to you. We have some model supply diversity planning documents, and of course the metrics. But the thing, it may seem overwhelming what I just said, but the things that I want to stress is you don't have to try to check all the boxes on the checklist that I showed you. Just focus on these. It's essential for me, right? Those are really 4 things. You have a small team. You need a small team of committed individuals. You have to have a pilot project with defined boundaries and a good chance of success. You have to know where you're starting. You have to have some baseline and some sort of a measure of success so that at the end of that first cycle, you would know where you ended up, whether the plan worked or it requires adjustment for the next cycle. A formal policy, an official unveiling of the program and large scale implementation across the organization could definitely come later. Our advice is start small, start with a pilot, maybe focus on one one type of contracts, one contract, one procurement. But as your program broadens, excuse me, and grows, there are really 3 pathways that you can take. So the first one is purchasing. Purchasing is something that's available immediately. And it essentially combines your existing policies and procedures with information on who of your vendors is currently certified as a diverse vendor or who could be certified. So it's easy to communicate. You basically analyze your current procedures and try to adjust them to ensure that diverse vendors are included in purchasing. Our guidance to our state purchasers is that whenever the contract, laws, regulations, and policies allow, when you have a choice of vendors, we want them to make a preference for a diverse vendor, diverse or small vendor. So whenever they have discretion, whenever they do not have to ask for additional quotes and stuff like that, they can just, we would like them to make a preference for a diverse or small vendor. So if we include quotation into obtaining quotes into this purchasing bucket, then the idea is to really ensure that you're asking diverse vendors for quotes. And that also applies to contracts and procurements. This is where I think pilots are a good way to start. The idea here is that whenever you have a contract or procurement coming up, you will identify potential supplier diversity sort of suppliers, and you will try to engage them and invite them to submit bids. Of course, you're going to be using the same evaluation criteria and evaluation methodologies as are mandated by law, but often just the increased participation of diverse vendors brings out outcomes like contracting with those companies. And finally, perhaps the more complicated pathway, the third one, and that's probably something that we would advise you to do after you've done the first two, that's fostering partnerships. It's the partnerships that I was talking about when I discussed indirect spending for supply diversity. So that is an available pathway for municipal contracts as well. It may be a little bit harder to incorporate it in some contracts, but the idea is that you can ask your suppliers, your direct suppliers, to partner with diverse suppliers as subcontractors or for ancillary sort of general business needs, products and services. You're already doing it for construction, but it's possible to do for goods and services as well. So, so as you're thinking about what to do, so this presentation sort of assumes that you're thinking about formalizing your supply diversity efforts. So basically, what we're asking folks to do is to think which of the pathways works for them, which types of opportunities you want to focus on in the spirit of starting small and really having a defined scope for your efforts, which certification types you're going to recognize, and what specific actions you will ask the purchasing staff or contractors to actually implement. In my experience, having clarity on what specific actions folks can do, folks, you want folks to implement, or folks are free to implement whenever it makes sense, actually makes a huge difference. Because often what I've noticed in state purchasing, it's not the lack of goodwill or interest. It's really the lack of sort of tools and understanding of what is possible to do within the regulatory and legal framework to engage diverse vendors that really is often the stumbling block. So having clarity on what folks have the discretion to do, what you want them to do, and where to find the resources to do it. That definitely helps ensure that your program is effective. One such resource is the statewide contract index. It's something that's available on the COMBI's homepage. You can download it. It's actually updated weekly. And so when you download it, one of the worksheets on it, the fourth worksheet, is actually a table of all statewide contractors and their small business and supply diversity status. That's as up to date as it gets. And whenever a contract, I'll give you an example of the guidance that we provide to state buyers. Whenever a contract allows just vendor selection without additional quotation, as I mentioned, we want folks to make a preference for diverse vendors whenever it makes sense and whenever it's allowed by the contract, the laws, regulations, and agency policies. And whenever the contract requires multiple quotes, we do require agencies to include at least 2 small and/or diverse vendors into their quote requests. So it's actually a policy requirement that we implemented for this fiscal year. So and that ensures this resource ensures that our agencies are actually able to do it. So there you go. Clarity on what to do, relatively, and a resource to help folks actually do it. There's obviously more to the supply diversity playbook. There's also, in addition to plan, there's do, check, and adjust. So it's available on our website. We'll be happy to share this information, this resource with you. And a little bit more on resources. We are at mass.gov/SDO. If you have questions for John and myself, you can email us at sdp@mass.gov for the Supply Diversity Program. And that brings us to the last slide of the presentation, and to questions.
I have a question. I think I saw in an earlier slide, I think it was in the toolbox, you had mentioned being able to take our spend analytics to kind of see who we're already doing business with, because I know for a fact, I can speak internally, but even when I worked for municipalities, keeping track is probably one of the hardest things to do if you don't have dedicated staff or resources. So would it be, something as simple as, connecting with you guys and just being able to maybe pull reports on what our spend is and with whom and get that over to you? I'm just curious and would like to know a little bit more information on that.
Sure. It's not, well, it's a multi-step process, but it's manageable.
Okay.
So the first thing we do is we sign like a confidentiality agreement saying that mostly we're going to take your data and we're going to keep it safe.
Right.
And you're going to give us data and, trust that we will keep it safe.
Of course.
We have a secure FTP application where you put the file, we pick it up, it doesn't go over email. And basically, as a third step, we take this information and we append data on which of the vendors are certified and in which category.
Okay.
Our own methodology for calculating spending is a little bit more complicated because we only count the payments that fall between the certification dates of each vendor. But
Okay.
to just establish a baseline and figure out who is certified out of the vendors that you're spending with, I think this type of just adding a line, adding a column is totally sufficient.
Okay.
Because it's a perfectly good baseline, and we've done it for the city of Boston and a couple of other municipalities.
Okay.
One significant note: why is it that we need to keep this information safe? It's because we do matching by tax ID.
Okay.
So, and since tax IDs sometimes includes social security numbers, that's why it's important to keep it safe.
Good, because I tried to do it manually. So I, tried to use my tech savviness. I used your directory. I think it's downloadable into an Excel spreadsheet. So I had that. I had my, report that I spit out from Munis. And then I tried, looking at the names, but whatever they're legally named isn't necessarily what they are in the system. So it just became more work than it should have been. So I knew there had to be an easier way. So that might be a route, because I look at our spend and I know it has to be higher than that. It's a pretty sad baseline, because this year we're starting to really keep track of it. We rolled out vendor self-service, so more companies are, acknowledging and definitely want to highlight and check off that box that they're MBE or WBE certified. So it's definitely something we're keeping track of more. But so I used what we had last year as like a baseline, and it's pretty bad. So I want to get that baseline a little bit higher and a little bit more accurate to what I think it should be. So, all right. So something I'll probably be in touch, but it's good
Sure.
for the
Yeah.
municipalities too, because I know for a fact, unless you have dedicated staff and resources to do this sort of thing, and, as this information is becoming, requested more often by outside, agencies and newspapers, and they all want to know what our MBE, WBE spend is, but we don't have those numbers. So,
Right. Right. I think financial reporting of this type is very challenging, because um, I think any IT person will tell you that the best system, the safest system, is a system that's not connected to anything, including the internet, right? We've been keeping our data safe, and there's only one, I think, system like with which we fully integrate. That's the Combis system. Another, it's an OSD system that manages. So, but this is our e-procurement system for the state. But definitely branching out into helping municipalities establish these baselines and actually track spending year to year. One other thing that I want to highlight is a new system that we're building.
Ooh.
That might have the option for municipalities to use it and to actually keep track of their supply diversity spending inside that system. So it includes direct spending, and it includes the collection of supplier reports.
Okay, nice. Well, that's exciting. Awesome. Any questions from our membership that's out there? This was a very popular item that folks wanted to see, so I wanted to make sure that, any questions you might have.
Amber Patterson again from Town of Barnstable. As we enter into this process, and if a municipality chooses to have their own policy, is there someone at the SDO office who can help us review our policies to make sure we're on the right track? Will there be templates or examples that we can reference?
We currently do not have a model municipal policy. I think I would refer it to our general counsel and the head of the supply diversity office to figure out like the extent to which we can help, because we are not the oversight agency for Chapter 30B or 3039M, and as a result, so we wouldn't be able to kind of provide comprehensive feedback on a policy like that. But we definitely want to be involved and help you in any way we can. But I just want to make sure that you also involve not just even your internal legal counsel, but also folks from other agencies.
Absolutely, understood.
Might be a good idea for something in the future, maybe to get the
just
head
to
of,
do it for everybody, for us to
the
meet
CEO,
with
your legal counsel, and maybe have, obviously municipality input, have some of your biggest ones, some of your small towns, and put a policy together, at least a template, like something that we can take, and if we have to, add additional goals, because a lot of municipalities have like residency goals and whatnot that they want to achieve. So, it'd be good to at least have a base or a standard template that they could work off of. But something to think about for the future.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yes. We will communicate this to our supreme leaders.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's great. Any other questions before our next quick presentation? No? All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us. Much appreciated. If you want to send me that presentation over, and I'll share your contact information. That way, if there's, any follow-up or any additional questions that our members have, they can always reach out directly to you guys. So
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. All right.
Thanks, Jen. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
All right. So next on the agenda, I figured it would be a good segue from our SDO presentation to have a vendor presentation, just a quick little introduction from a company that I met with recently with our IT director. And I figured, since they're, I believe, MBE certified, why not have them here and talk to us a little bit about, what they do. They're currently on a couple of state contracts also as well. So Bob, Mark, I believe you guys have a presentation. There you are. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, all. Yes, this is Bob Spencer with Zones. We are recently SDO certified, and we won some state contracts. So thank you very much, Jennifer, for inviting us to join today. I really appreciate this. And this just a half a dozen slides, including the title and the ending. So just a few things to introduce ourselves. Shout out to Mark. Mark Malloy's been our advocate to help us just get our name out there. We're not new to the industry, but we're new to the SDO and to the state contracts in the Commonwealth. So just a quick brief overview. We've been around since 1986. We're going to hit our 35th anniversary later this year. We're almost $2.5 billion in revenues, and we're essentially an IT company, reselling products and services. And we do a lot of business with the major manufacturers and the publishers like Microsoft, Cisco, and all that. And as I mentioned, we went through the SDO office last year and got our MBE certification. We're nationally certified, but we had not actually, gone through the process. And kudos to the SDO team who really helped us through this. They're very thorough and conscientious about following a very detailed process, and I appreciate that because it adds integrity to the certification that we got. And it started probably January of last year. There was an in-person workshop I had to go to, and then we all know what happened in March. And just about a year ago, we got our certification as an MBE in Massachusetts. And we're also certified by the city of Boston, the state of Vermont, and the city of New York, and a number of other entities around the country. And we're very proud that we got awarded both the ITC 73, which is essentially the hardware and services contract for IT in the Commonwealth, and ITS 75 is essentially the software contract for the Commonwealth. So we're very proud that we got on both of those, effective of February of this year. So we're essentially a reseller, as I said. We resell all the major hardware brands, as you can imagine, the Dells, the Lenovos, the Cisco, the HP, and on and on and on. And we resell a lot of software products from Microsoft, Adobe, you name it, all the major ones. But we also do a lot of services. So we're helping a lot of customers with mobility as they're getting, their employees out and need the equipment and all the everything that they need to get set up in a home office or a hoteling office or whatever it happens to be. So that's a big part of our offering. We were called on last year when everybody was basically told stay home. Actually, New York City, the mayor called the CEO of Apple and said, I have over a couple 100,000 kids that are in foster homes. They're in, they're in projects, and they don't have devices. And I don't know what to do because we need to be able to teach these kids. So we were actually part of that deployment. In less than a month, we got about 160,000 iPads deployed from our technology centers and sent down to New York City so that those kids could participate in the remote learning that was required. So we're very proud of that. We do a lot of work with the City of Boston and other customers that require, we focus on networking and life cycle. The life cycle is what I was just mentioning, and we're actually talking with Jen and her IT director about that over the next couple of weeks. So we do a lot of services work, and we're very proud of that. And we really just want an opportunity to help you guys. I appreciate the introduction. We just don't do the big projects, though. We do the small stuff too, and I just wanted to make sure that point is known. This is just just a cross section of some of our customers that we do business in the Northeast here, and hopefully some of these names ring a bell to you guys. And we do some business with Barnstable and looking to do some more, and really just looking for the opportunity to bid on something for you and provide the excellent service that we do to try to help you with some of your IT needs. So here's our contact information. I'm the outside field rep. I live in the Metro West area outside of Boston, and this is the rest of the team. I'll send this over to Jennifer, and appreciate this opportunity and the chance to just present to you. And we're here to help, and I hope you'll reach out to us for any assistance you may need. Any questions, Jennifer?
Bob, I was just going to just offer one additional point that just for folks to consider as well. And this is Mark Malloy, and I work with Zones, as Bob identified. Municipalities, a lot of what you guys are looking at are the mobility issues and looking at, how, this end user services go for not just the employees that you work with every day, but also the general public in your towns. One of the other pieces too is the accountability piece, Bob, and I just wanted to kind of touch on that, which I know goes into the services, but the types of things Zones does as well is, for example, your IT department comes to you guys as a procurement team and says, hey, we want to renew all these licenses, and you're saying to yourself, hey, what do we already have out? It gets very confusing when you have a variety of software and hardware pieces out there already. Zones will work with the variety of the folks in your town and your procurement departments and your IT departments to actually catalog that and audit it for you. Bob, I didn't know if we wanted just to highlight that for a moment, because I think that's something that gets very confusing for municipalities. And the final piece I would just say is that Zones, when I talked to Bob about, some of the target folks to really kind of get in front of and talk to, Cape Cod came up immediately on the list because you guys, the size of towns from, small to medium, to some larger on that respect, are really the kind of the sweet spot for Zones. They can do the big, they can do the small, but the great thing is they view this as a partnership. This is something that they're looking to do, not just to give you a box of product and say, hey, that's the box of product you offered or you asked for, but this is what we think we should do over the long term together. So I just wanted to kind of offer that point before questions. Thanks.
Yeah, so just quickly, software compliance is a big deal. And we work with our customers to make sure that you're not overspending and you're preventing any audits. The major publishers like Microsoft, Oracle, some of the bigger ones, they'll do true ups, and a lot of customers have gotten surprised by these big bills, saying, wait a minute, we see that you're using 10,000 licenses and you're only licensed for 8,000, and that can be a big shock. So we have a good service to help you kind of manage those licenses, avoid any surprises like that, and make sure that you're paying only for what you use, not paying for extra when you don't really need to. So we'd love to get into some conversations with you guys about how we can help, and I appreciate and want to thank Jennifer for the opportunity to speak with you today. Question?
Thanks, guys. Let's see. Any questions in the chat? No worries. I can always share your information, and if they, if any of the members want updates on your work with the county, that'll probably be helpful as well. But I know we were looking at that life cycle possibility, and just being able to have items tagged, and have it already arrive kind of all set and ready to deploy. So that's going to be nice and free up some time for our IT folks for sure. So
Yeah. And post deploy,
right.
we offer a massive help. We're actually the help desk for the entire state of New York, all the employees in the state of New York. When they call 1-800-HELP, they're actually speaking with zones. And
Wow.
so, yeah, there's a lot of things we do, but I want to emphasize small and large, not only the big players, right?
Gotcha.
Thank you again, Jennifer. I'll send this over to you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. All right. If there are no questions, I guess we'll move on the agenda. All right. So the final thing is really, this is the time that I usually kind of give everybody an update on what I've been working on for the county. So obviously the summer has been kind of slow. We don't have our annual bids. They've all been completed. Everything's signed. Everything's on the website. All of the information, I should say, is on the main purchasing website. So that's where you're going to find pricing sheets, contracts, everything that you could possibly need. And then I'm hoping that sometime in probably late October, early November, we'll start the roadway construction bids and start our whole annual bid cycle again for next year. Does anybody have any questions? I do want to thank everybody that participated in the survey. There was a lot of great information. Hopefully, I'll be able to add a couple of those cooperative bid requests that came in, so that's good. So I'll probably be hopefully reaching out to some of you on that. But I'll always update the newsletter and send it out to each municipality. That way, you don't miss the opportunity to join. Trying to think of what else. The other thing that I've been doing this summer, only because we really needed it internally, but 2 years ago when I first started, I noticed that one of the things that was really lacking internally was training. So training on general purchasing policies, training on going out to bid, training on, contracts and contract management. So I was speaking with one of my other colleagues who actually does a lot of work. She does a lot of work with the towns, and it came up in conversation. She's like, "Oh, are you going to offer this to the towns?" And I said, "Well, I didn't really think of that, but I'm more than happy to share my information always, because what we do in procurement, we always borrow from someone else. Why reinvent the wheel?" And that way you can kind of take something that's done, tweak it to whatever policies you have internally and in town, and, have an opportunity to kind of teach everybody what they need to know for purchasing, when to go out for quotes, when to, does it have to be a sealed bid, and et cetera. So on the table, obviously you can always contact me if you're interested in that. I figured sharing is caring. Anybody else?
Thank you, Jen, for that offer. That's a wonderful offer. This is Roby. And did you by any chance audio take them? Or
I did actually, of course.
Well, that certainly makes life a whole lot easier. Thank you for that. That sounds wonderful.
Yeah, so I will, what I can do is I can always share the slides, and if it's something that, you just want to kind of borrow, feel free, and I can always send you the link to the videos as well. Yeah, no problem. Amber? Oh no, I just see that your microphone was on. Right, so next month, our meeting is going to be on, I believe, September 28th, and we're going to be hearing from a couple of folks at DEP and the deputy director at the Massachusetts Clean Water Trust. So this was a request for someone to talk to us about SRF funding. So if any of you have been doing this lately, we just went through it for the Fire Training Academy capping. So it was quite the process. So if you've been kind of going through it, there's a lot of steps, there's a lot of information, and so we invited them to talk to us. So if any of your, you know, finance directors and whatnot want to, you know, participate in this meeting, it might be kind of good for them to just be aware of, you know, all the little things that we needed to submit for this process. You know, it's been a very interesting one going through it. But so that's the next meeting. And does anybody have any questions, follow up, anything? All right.
All right, well, as always, thank you, Jen, and I'm gonna go ahead and put forth a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Thanks, Amber. I'll second it.
Wasn't quick enough. Sorry about that.
No worries. All right. Thanks, everybody. All right. I don't think anyone's going to oppose, so.
Thank you.
I really
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Have a good one.
You too.
You too. Thank you.